This is going to be Elijah. Prayed. Now, I can go on the list of how many people in the Bible went to God and said, kill me. Take my life. Even after I think it was Jonah complaining after victory. Top of your game. These are mighty people. And he gets a little nasty letter from abroad. Wiping out men. He's afraid of this woman. One little remark. Threat. And the bottom line in all three of these people right now is fear. See, they had great victory. And the devil didn't crash your party during the victory, but after. But they had great victory. Why? God spoke to them before they went into battle. He spoke to them and told them exactly what he wanted them to do. Read, and you'll find everyone that had fear come upon them. They did things that God never told them to do. You said the will of God. Net was telling you about what we're about almost the ministry almost we're about to die. Kill this ministry we're talking about because what? Right here. But we got back on track because we almost was going to do what we want to do, and as we want, because we thought we were doing God's work, that we really had a lot of problems happen because being out of the will. Because God did tell us, just like he told you. But the common denominator here is this is what happens. The enemy is going to come at you and crash your victory party because, one, it's not your party. It's his party. We're sharing the victory. It's his battle. It's when we do something that God never told you. Now, God we'll just stick on Elijah here, tells Elijah what about Jezebel's prophets he wanted him to do, and he did. But did God tell him to run? Did God tell him to run? Did God tell Samson, hey, yeah, next time you come across this broad, I want you to tell her to cut your hair? Did God tell Moses when the people get over there, I want you to tell them I'm not going to feed them? See, that's what happens to us after we come through victory, that we get so high in the game that we're not cautious, we're not looking. And we go ahead and we think everything is fine because we're in the midst of our celebration, bells, whistles, and everything. God's having a good time and he's dancing, but we're answering doors and allowing the enemy in by not focusing on what he said. If they would have stopped and said, okay, what for should I do now? If you would have said, hey, I just got a letter, and God says, yeah, no, I got the letter too. I got it before you did. Trust me, before the foundation of the earth. What do I do? But see, after he goes through all that fear and everything and hides out in the cave, God just basically says, hey, look, you ain't really, yeah. I'm just saying this clip here, but I can just see you guys as, yeah, you're a man. I called you to be a prophet, but you ain't the only one. I got 7 more. See, these are people who think they were alone. See, sometimes prophets don't communicate because they're just alone. We think we're alone. Alone in their situations. Alone when, well, a sense of alone because we walk away from God. And then that's where fear attacks. If you're in his will, you no harm. You won't even sense. Now you can discern some fear around you, some sense of fear, and there's some good fear. God just, got to get back in the will. You ever do something disobedient and you were afraid that somebody might find out, and that fear? That's the word, guys. That's the whole word. And I say this and myself many times, I ain't going to live by fear. I will experience fear, but I'm not going to move by fear. But there are people that's in the body that have different levels. So we're not here to beat anybody up. But I'd rather look to somebody who has a little bit more level and calm and go to them to help me in a situation. In this case, it is God, but even in the body, we've got, you talk about mantles. We're talking about a prophet passing another prophet his mantle. Elijah in Elijah, right? Stick close to him. He knew. Joshua and Moses, who was next in line. Now, Joshua was the same way. Now, Moses just died. First Josh. Now, he's freaking out too. What am I going to do? And God says, be of good courage. You're not alone. It's okay to sense that you recognize in yourself we have limitations. And it takes our mind off, our spiritual mind, because it really is a hard muscle to stretch, especially when you're dealing with free will. How's that person going to, maybe I offended that person. You might have the enemy come in fear of your reputation. Who you show you fear? God. I'm an honest man. I just bared fruit. I really did. Because it's a serious word, and dogs don't have free will. They don't have a soul. They go by instinct. They go by senses. We have a free will and a soul. And we have a choice. That dog, unless he's taught not to do that, he may never know. Have you ever heard of elephants and you ever see elephants and horses? How this big, super big elephant's got a little bitty rope. Or the horse you see get off, and those who've seen horses or whatever, they take the strap and just wind it up once or twice. And you're like, how is this elephant so strong not to pull that up? Or this horse that all he has to do is run. He's trained that way from a baby. So as you get him as a baby in that big rope and you nudge, they think, I told you I was going to move prophetic here. They think that they'll never be able to pull that stake up the elephant because the rope's too strong. Or the horse the same way. It's called what? Learned behavior. Every one of us has got learned behavior. And we're trained a lot coming up to age by fear. Fear in relationships. Well, if this happened in this relationship, I'm sure it's going to happen in this one. There are people that run from the police officer because they had a bad experience with another police officer. Fear that they may not get to another place. Every time this happens, it's fear, 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 fear. Fear will stop you. And I know you've heard of something called petrified fear. And petrified fear is one of the worst fears that the enemy gives you, where you can't do nothing, you can't move. But God knows your heart. He knows your strength. He knows your frame. Petrified fear, 2002. And that's when you can't work on your own knowledge, wisdom, strength, power. Money, nothing. Because you never learned this before. Never sensed this before. I've sensed fear in my dad. I know if I did that, he's going to spank me. But fear of loneliness, fear of abandonment, never experienced it. To that moment. We serve a good God who knows where you're at. See, he didn't rebuke him. He just knew him. He allowed Elijah to go in that comfort of that cave. Samson, as I remember, after he was walking around the millstone with no eyes, sounds like where I came from one time, just walking around. How many people has been there walking around the millstone? All your strength is gone. You can't see where you're going. Just going around in circles. And he asked God one more time to give him strength.